jewelry making friends. My name is Joey Balestrieri. Welcome to my work table. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I actually was not going to film these bracelets. I just put a lot of 2-hole beads, Tila beads, super duos, some different seed beads, and I was really just playing, and I intended to make 3 bracelets, which I call yoga bracelets. For me, a yoga bracelet is a colorful bracelet that's close to my wrist and not too fitted. I mean, and not too dangly, not too much movement, because I literally like to have something colorful for my classes to wear with my outfits, with my workout clothes. It's a thing that kind of encourages me and incentivizes me to do my exercise every day. So, you know, for some people, a yoga bracelet, they feel that they get certain energy from certain stones, and that's another kind. But my version is just colorful, fun, and very small and like close to the wrist. So what's happened is I have ended up making 6 bracelets so far, and I decided to kind of start filming on this 7th one, because as I was playing with these Tila beads and super duos and things and my buttons, I came up with a few little tips and tricks, and I thought if any of you like this project that, you know, you might benefit from some of my own experimentation. And I was also thinking, as we go into the summer, that this could be a lovely, fun thing to do with kids when it's too hot and you need to be inside, because you can use so many things. I do have some check glass shank buttons, and this was a completely, totally random pattern with Tila beads and seed beads only. And I'll just go through these quickly. This is a copper heart-shaped tiara cast button where I mixed, creating a pattern actually on this one with the Tila 2-hole beads and the super duos and some seed beads. And I'll just pause for a second for newer people, because I know there's a lot of new people to jewelry making. Tila beads are a Japanese bead, and it's like a perfect little square. I'm actually quite fascinated with these beads. They have 2 holes in them, and they're a little bit different than regular tile beads or check glass tile beads, because they're really quite perfect and more square, and you get this like lovely geometry. And then the super duos is this little kind of, it's almost shaped like a little, I don't know, a little almond, but it has 2 holes in it as well. So I was kind of playing with how they fit together and how beautifully, can you see what the seed beads did? Like, I love this one because my seed beads created this little tiny bit of negative space where you can actually see your skin through it when the bracelet is on, and just like getting a little bit of dimension for such a very small flat bracelet. And as I said, to wear these with my yoga clothes, because I like to do the stretching yoga, and so they don't get in my way, and I just have that little bit of color on my wrist, as opposed to the bracelets that I love to make with all the charms and dangles. You know, this is not great for exercise clothing, but I really love these for that. So I'll just kind of show you. On this one, I just did the Tila beads with seed beads in between. And again, for newer ones, Tila beads come in different sizes. So this larger one is a full-size Tila bead, and then this is a half Tila bead. And then let's see, on this one I did not use a quarter. Let me see if I have a quarter Tila bead here. This little tiny green one is a quarter. So you can kind of see right here that this is a full size, a half, and a quarter. And so you can get a different, kind of different look by mixing the sizes and alternating colors. And as I said, this first one that I did was just completely random. I just did different amounts of seed beads, just creating odd negative space in between the Tila beads, and I just thought that one was fun, like a go with anything. And then on this one, this is the coolest little button. It was at the craft store, on a strand, in with the beads, and it looked like this. This is a Hobby Lobby item for my American viewers, and it was a whole strand of colorful buttons, but it was hanging on the bead wall. So when you go bead shopping, you know, you really have to kind of look for unusual things, and I just knew that these were going to be fun to work with. So on this one, I just did another strictly Tila bead and seed bead, just making those little bridges. I did a little bit longer seed bead on this one, a little bit longer line of seed bead, I meant to say. So it just creates a little bit more negative space, and I just created a little pattern. And then this is another tiara cast button from my stash. And also, if you notice, I am mixing gold and copper in all of my bracelets. Some are all copper, some are all gold, as far as seed beads and findings, and some are a mix of both. So on this one, I just did a pink and gold, mixing the full pink Tila beads that I had in the super duos. And what's lovely about these is you only need one number 2 crimp tube for each of these bracelets and one button. And on the one I'm going to do with you, I'm making the closure not even out of a button, which is why I decided to share this, because I thought it might give some of you some inspiration if you hadn't, you know, ever done something like this. But they're very easy to take on and off. You're making a little seed bead loop and they clasp like that. And what I love about them is that you can wear one of these, and or it could even be a bracelet that goes with your watch, but you could also stack 2 or 3, you know. So I think this is my favorite one. This one is copper, gold, and pink, and this one is only super duos and seed beads, and I had this little check glass pink button, and so that I think that might be my favorite one. I probably will wear this one every time with all of these. So let's jump right in. The only other thing is, for those of you who are not familiar, I am using my magical crimping plier, which needs a number 2 crimp tube to accommodate this. And I'm also using my Soft Flex, one of my very favorite bead stringing wires, and I use this on every single bracelet, the copper color medium. It is a 49 strand all-purpose bead stringing wire. It's extremely flexible, and you can fit 3 of those, fit that wire 3 times through a number 2 crimp tube. And on this one, because it's a 2-hole button, I actually was able to fit 4 strands back through before I used my magical crimping plier. And this is, I mean, you could definitely do a fold over crimp here, like a regular crimp, and put a crimp cover, but I just love, on these petite bracelets, I just love the magical crimping tool to make that teeny tiny little bead out of a crimp tube. So I'm going to do my last bracelet with you, and honestly, I could keep going. This is such a fun, relaxing stringing project. And you can do this in different ways. I've mixed my 2-hole beads, and I literally just went into my multi-hole bead bin and my button bin and my flower bin, and just pulled out some things and just put them all over my mat and started playing. This pattern play and color blocking is just so, it's just one of the joys of jewelry making. So because I am, you know, using 2-hole beads and doubling strands, I need about a 7-inch bracelet. So I took about 15 inches to start with. And what I did is just strung on some seed beads to make a loop. So this one looks like this. I already started the stringing. So each of my loops, let me just put this down and just give you a close-up of each of my loops. Set that over there. I did patterns on them. So some of them, it's just a straightforward gold or copper loop. Some of them, I created some little patterns in my seed bead loops to coordinate with what the rest of the bracelet was going to be. And so we always, on this style, we always start making our loop first. And what I love is the way they fit together, these 2-hole beads. Like, it is so beautiful to start, you know, your loop here with a 2-hole bead. It just, you'll see when we string this first one. So on this closure, I am not using a button. I am going to take a center hole flower bead actually two center hole flower beads, this little cup kind of bell flower, and I am going to make this little stack here and have some seed beads coming out. So I need to make sure that this loop is going to go over all of that. And that's how I did all of these, is whatever your closure is going to be. Like, I'm going to create a little stack, and this is actually going to be my closure. But whatever your whatever your button is, that's what you need to do, is before you really start stringing, is just make sure that it fits. Like, you want it to be snug, because you don't want to lose your bracelet, but you want it to, be able to go over without, and this one does go over. I'm just struggling with it because I'm holding too many things in my hand. But yeah, you just want to make sure before you do your crimping that your little loop will fit over whatever you've chosen as a closure. So I'm going to just add a little bit more to my loop here, because clearly for what I'm planning to use for my closure, I'm going to need more beads. And this is a stringing project, so I did on this one, I don't know if it's probably impossible to see, but I took my cutters and I just made an angled cut on this bead stringing wire, just like that, and it makes the little seed beads go on a lot more easily. So I'm going to just string a few more seed beads to get my loop the way that I want it, the size that I need it. I'm going to go with that. So I am actually mixing some of my purple, and I use Delica seed beads. I've mixed my seed beads between the Delicas, which is a more like a perfect little tube shaped seed bead, and then the traditional Czech Preciosa seed beads are these. They're not as uniform in size, but for this purpose, even the different shapes of those seed beads just give dimension and texture to this pretty little loop. And then I am going to start off on this pattern. I was kind of thinking about this pattern as I was stringing my last one. I'm just going to match up my two ends and make sure that my seed beads are down at the center of my length of bead stringing wire. And I'm going to start with, I think, 3 of these pink full-size Tila beads. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. I'm fascinated with these beads, and this pattern play is absolutely wonderful. Let me do 2. See how this looks. I am just going to kind of show you how I played with these 2 whole beads and these seed beads, and I will do the stringing of this off camera and come back and show you how I plan to do the closure. But because this would be so boring to watch someone string these. And what I found, like, once my first few beads, I really needed to look at my pattern, but what I found is that once I got going, if I would hold my 2 strands like that and maybe use my beading mat, sometimes I did pick them up, but just get my beads on there. And so I think, let's see, what do I want to do next? I think from here I'm going to do 2 more seed beads on each side. So I'm kind of playing with this as my pattern. I think that's really pretty. And then let's see. So I think this is going to be my little pattern for the length, where I create these little stations with the copper and the purple in between the pink and the little turquoise and green. And I'm just going to get my desired length, and I'll be back and show you how I plan to make a little button closure out of these flower beads. And this is just a really fun little pattern. I wanted the green and turquoise beads to be in between the pink, and I love that little bit of negative space that I get with the seed beads on each side of my stringing material. So this one is a section with that purple tila bead flanked by the copper, and then I did 3 of the super duos, the pink one flanked by the copper, and just kind of that's my little pattern, the way it turned out. These are so much fun. I could actually keep making these. And as you see, I have done quite a lot. And even though I am making these bracelets to wear with my yoga pants and my colorful shirts that I wear, and I don't like a lot of busyness because that's, I just like the color and it's kind of inspirational. I do have a little tiara cast dog and a cat, and I pulled those out because I think I am going to add charms to 2 of my bracelets. But before I jump to that final little touch, let's finish this one off. So I'll show you how this happens. I have my desired length, and I'm just always make sure that there's no unwanted spaces and it's not twisted. You'll see when you start stringing these 2-hole beads that your wire does want to twist a little bit, but as you add beads and smooth it out, it works itself out, and the wire gets, this bead stringing wire with its coating, it gets accustomed to what you have strung on it, and it looks great. I'm so happy with it. So I have a number 2 crimp tube. I love the ones from Soft Flex Company. These are gold filled, and they are just perfect for the magical crimping plier. And so I'm going to take both of my wires and feed them through that tube and bring it down to my beads, and just have a final look now that I'm crimping. And then at this point, for my other bracelets, like this one, I actually fed the wires up through and back down, so there are actually 4 wires going through this tube. But on the rest of them, there are only 3 wires because I just let one hang out until I was finished crimping, and then I cut it away. And so you can see, like, my buttons move very freely because I don't have too many wires going through that little shank. And I'm going to do this one differently because I'm actually using some center hole flower beads. So it is going to be the same in that I'm going to just ignore one of my wires and thread my base flower down to that crimp tube, and then I'm going to put a little copper, it's like a filigree, little lattice work bead cap. And then I'm going to thread on my little bell flower, my cup flower, and that's going to be what my sort of button is going to be. And then I want to put some things in the middle of this. And what I think I'm going to do, since I alternated the copper and purple seed beads on my loop, I think I'm going to do that for the middle of the flower. So I'm just going to thread on alternating a copper, one of these little purple delicas, copper, and then delica, and then my last copper, and just make a loop of these little beads to be the center of my flower. And now I'm going to make that loop, not going back through the seed beads, but I'm going to wiggle it down through the bell flower, the bead cap, and my little check glass kind of little flat flower. On every single one of these bracelets, this part was really the most challenging. Just this final little closure, just threading the wire back through. I mean, it does go. But this is probably where I just needed to, you know, take my time and not rush through it and just really see how everything is landing before I crimp. And I use my pliers to help me. I just want to pull that. Isn't that cool? I think that's so pretty. I love having things coming out of the center of my beads. And I also need to get this wire. I might have to back it out a bit. I'm so fascinated by my beads in the middle of the flower, but it does need to go back through the crimp tube before it can be crimped. So do back it up a little bit. These were so much fun to make, and as I said when I started to share this idea, I had intended to just make 3 colorful bracelets and just kind of put them in the workout section of my closet to grab with my colorful yoga pants, and then, or yoga shirts and bottoms actually. And then as I started to make them, I was having so much fun really mixing the Tila beads with the super duos, and then creating those cool spaces with the different seed beads. And I started to have a really lot of fun with my buttons and my clasps. And so as you see, there's an abundance of bracelets. It was just really a joyful project. And that's what I'm going to do, is just, I have my little beads coming in the middle, and I am going to double check now that I've pulled all those wires and just make sure that there's no strange gaps or that it's not too tight. And so also I check my loop at this point, and it looks like it's going to be really good. Maybe pull this down just a little bit more so you can see that I'm letting this one wire just hang out of the top of the crimp tube, and it will be really secure when I do the final crimp. It does work that way. Okay, and for those of you who are not familiar with the magical crimping plier, it will turn this little tube into a small gold bead, and it only has one little divot or well in it, so it's a little bit different than the fold over method. And you just take your time, and you can feel when that bead is centered in that little well, and when it is, you just close the pliers all the way. When you take it away, you'll see that you have pinched the 4 corners of that little tube. So then you just turn it sideways the opposite direction and fit it in that well and close again, and then just gently open and close the pliers. You can either turn your pliers or your work, and at first you'll feel a little bit of resistance. You'll feel the plier kind of closing down on that crimp tube, but after a few turns, you're like opening and closing on air. There's no resistance, there's nothing, you're feeling it not do anything, and when you take that away, you have turned that tube into this beautiful little gold bead, and it is absolutely perfect for this type of a bracelet. Now, if it's too small of a bead, you can put a crimp cover right on top of that if you need it to be larger, but it is not necessary. And it is just makes the most professional. Really, it is kind of magical, because for someone that doesn't make jewelry, they would not know the beginning or the ending of this design or how it is held together, because that looks like a little gold bead. And so, you know, I have seen people make this where they use a large whole bead to cover this part here, but I just, with the beautiful soft flex wire in the colors that it's available in, and with the magical crimping plier turning that tube into a bead, I don't feel the need to cover that up. I think it's beautiful. I just love it, and I think this is so sweet. So this little loop can either clasp back there, or I was even thinking I don't know if it will stay. I was thinking even there, but I think it has to go over the bigger flower. I just think that's so pretty. I just love adding that to my collection. And so I am going to add the little dog and cat. This is my favorite bracelet, and I love my little Bella cat. I have a Bella cat and I have Oprah. She's a service dog from Canine Companions, and I'm going to take some gold filled jump rings, and I think these are about I think these might be 8mm. This is an Amazon find, and I really like the quality of them. I can link it in the video description right below the video. And I work really hard on those description boxes, so mine tend to be a little bit long. I try to give whatever information I think you all might want. So you might have to tap more and then tap it again to see everything. So the way that I attach my charms is I put my jump ring around the whole piece of, instead of like through the loop, or instead of like through this loop, I put it around the entire circumference of my piece. And then I add my charm. And when I close the jump ring, it gives you so much movement. Your charm does not get stuck or kinked when you're wearing the bracelet, because it goes, no matter which way it's on your arm, it goes freely all the way around the bracelet. So that, it's like that. And these are so pretty, these tiara cast, because they are two-sided. So I don't know if the camera will show you clearly, but the back of the little cat, you see the dimension of her little ears, and the little hair is even in the mold. So it's pretty front and back, and I just love, I could see me wearing this bracelet a lot. That is so pretty. It's just lovely. And you guys are gonna laugh at me. This is a tiara cast dogwood button, and I'm gonna put my dog on it. It matches really well because it is tiara cast, and he also, you can see his little design. It's really detailed on the back, so I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I am going to put the jump ring around the whole thing instead of through the loop or the opening. I started doing this a while ago, and it's just like a good little trick for your charms and your dangles to not be stuck a lot, you know, depending on how you move your arm or even how you clasp your bracelet. So that is so pretty. Look at that. I think it's so beautiful. I love how these turned out. They were so much fun. Oh, I happen to have another set of bracelets here, and I did that on these as well, and these are also with the soft flex wire and the magical crimping plier. And so no matter which way I clasp this bracelet, my little dangling pieces are never stuck. They move freely, they make their little noise, and it is just lovely. And I pretty much do that on all my bracelets. Even if there's a loop for the closure, my jump ring goes around instead of in a loop. So, you know, like I always used to like find a loop like this to attach my jump ring, but I really like the way the freedom of movement and just the way I get to enjoy the charms that I add to my pieces. So that is my little tip for attaching charms. And I will put some pictures of these little bracelets up at the end. And if you have not tried like mixing your two hole beads, I highly recommend it. I had so much fun fitting together the Tila beads and the super duos and creating those cool spaces with Delica seed beads or regular Preciosa seed beads, and it was just really fun to create all of these patterns. I actually love the super duos and the seed beads alone. I love the mixture. I loved just the Tila beads, and I played with the different sizes, and this was just so much fun, a relaxing, joyful stringing project. And I got a little bit creative with some of my clasps. But I just want to thank you so much for choosing my video today and for watching what I'm creating. And I hope everyone is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. And oh, don't forget to send me your little dog and cat and other pet photos to my email. I love to put them here and there at the end of my videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao, creative friends.